Hello everyone, this is going to be a 200 jury charge for the RPR simulator, and this will be 5 minutes long. Okay, ready? Then there's the back cargo door. You are going to hear about blood having been actually flung onto that door. You are going to hear from a person by the name of Nick Sims, a blood spatter expert, explain how that kind of blood spatters, which will show that it's left from a very violent kind of episode. You are going to hear her blood was found on the rear tailgate, the door handle, and again on the soda can. John Smith's blood is found, like I told you, in 6 different places in the vehicle. Positive matches for John Smith were found on the rear passenger door near the ignition area where John Smith's actively bleeding finger actually leaves some DNA in the ignition area. It was found also in the front, that is the front passenger part of the SUV, as well as on the CD case and on both of the front seats. I told you before about the cut, the actively bleeding cut on John Smith on the 9th. We will show you pictures of the remnants of that cut. It was healing, but we will show you just how deep the cut was, and you can draw the conclusions. And in fact, it may or may not even be contested that his finger was actively bleeding on the 31st when he struggled with McKenna and when he loaded her in the back of the vehicle and helped to dispose of the vehicle to conceal that particular crime. And finally, you were going to hear evidence of the DNA of John Smith being found on McKenna Frank's key. You are going to hear about how DNA is the same whether it is in your blood, whether it is in other bodily fluids, perspiration, skin cells, semen, and any other kinds of places. No matter what, it is the same genetic code. It is the same DNA that is found. And when John was handling that key, he left his perspiration, he left his sweat on that key. And Ms. Damon, was able to develop a full profile, all right? Everybody please take a deep breath because we are now going to start talking about the reason that you are here. That was all of John Smith's case where the evidence that pointed, to John Smith. This is going to be a time when the judge is going to allow you to take a few minute break, your morning break, After you return, we will then tell you what the evidence is that the state intends to show and why it is that the state intends to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that that man, Tyler Melvin, committed the crimes of first-degree intentional homicide, mutilation, and sexual assault. So if we may, Judge, take a 10 or 15-minute break at this time, and when you come back, I will conclude my opening statement. Thank you very much. The screens have now been fixed. The reason we are here is for Tyler Melvin. We are here for the jury to consider Tyler Melvin's behavior or whether or not he participated in criminal behavior. The judge instructed you that you are going to be able to take notes during the testimony in this case, during the presentation of the evidence. Now, as you take notes, it oftentimes is a suggestion from the lawyers. Mr. Freeman or Mr. Edgar, whoever has given their opening statement, may have suggestions for you as well. But in note-taking and taking detailed notes, you are going to be able to use during your deliberations the 2 questions at least that the state is going to ask or present evidence that is going to ask you to answer are these. Number 1, was he there? And number 2, did he help? Was he there and did he help? On November 6th, Tyler Melvin, right after this case began, right after the investigation began in this case, denied any knowledge of McKenna Frank's death. Oh, he did indicate some version that he had seen his Uncle John talking with McKenna, but the investigators pretty much discarded that because it wasn't consistent and it didn't fit with the timeline. It didn't fit with the evidence. Remember, McKenna got there at about 2:40. You are going to hear evidence that John didn't get off the bus from school at 3:45, a full hour after that meeting, after McKenna would have been talking out on the porch with Mr. Smith. And so Tyler was nowhere on the radar screen. He was nowhere as a suspect. He was just a witness like any other witness who might have been on the property. That tends to change on February 27 when Tyler starts giving new details. He is re-interviewed based on some other information that was obtained by Mr. Fass and Mr. Wilbert, and he then becomes a much more important witness. He is now a witness at this point. He says that he sees John standing near the fire. He sees body parts of McKenna Frank in the fire. He helps put fuel on the fire to help kind of stoke up the fire, if you will. Uncle John makes some admissions that Uncle John stabbed McKenna Frank, but also that Mr. Melvin saw some clothing. And interestingly, he said he saw McKenna's clothing in a bag, and he saw them in a bag in the garage. Well, as officers, you will learn, kind of reconstructed that February 27th statement. They started saying, as investigators do, well, wait a second, that can't happen that way. How can he describe McKenna Frank's clothing if they are in a bag? In the forensic interviews you will hear testimony from investigator Mark Willow. Witnesses give interviews, and forensic interviewing, you will hear some version of what's called the funnel technique. Okay, we do have a word list. We have Nick Sims, capital N-I-C-K, Sims, capital S-I-M-S. John Smith, capital J-O-H-N, Smith, capital S-M-I-T-H. McKenna Frank, capital M-E-K-E-N-N-A. Frank, capital F-R-A-N-K. Ms. Damon, M-S period, Damon, capital D as in dog, A-M-E-N. Mr. Freeman, capital F-R-E-E-M-A-N. Mr. Edgar, capital E-D-G-A-R. Tyler Melvin, capital T-Y-L-E-R. Melvin, capital M-E-L-V-I-N. Mr. Foss, capital F as in Frank, A-S-S. Mr. Wilbert, capital W-I-L-B-E-R-T. And investigator Mark Willow, capital I-N-V-E-S-T-I-G-A-T-O-R. Mark, capital M-A-R-K. Willow, capital W-I-L-L-O-W. And that concludes the 200 jury charge for the RPR simulator. Good luck.